as well. So Randy Van Duinen, he is a master photographer, a master artist, a craftsman, a CPP, and he is a fellow of ASP. His love of photography began when he and his brother discovered their grandfather's old Argus rangefinder camera. I have one on my shelf back there. Since then, he's merged his love for photography with his passions for both architecture and travel. And today he shares his expertise through workshops, speaking engagements, training videos, and inspiring others to explore the world of photography. He's been photographing architecture from the time he first picked up a camera in high school. He has over 30 years of experience with an impressive list of clientele, including Gresham Smith Architects, Tampa International Airport, Boeing Aircraft Labs, Comcast, and many more architectural firms and builders. Randy's photography has been featured prominently in various national magazines on their covers and inside their pages. These magazines include a wide range of publications such as Interiors, Professional Builder, Professional Photographer, and Photoshop User. Furthermore, Randy's work's been recognized and included in the permanent collection of the Grand Rapids Art Museum. Additionally, he's had the opportunity to showcase his images in numerous galleries and art shows. So once again, we have a member who has succeeded commercially as well as in the fine art world, and who has a giving heart to share with others. So Randy, congratulations again, and take it away. It's all yours.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. I'm unbelievable that I'm here. I also see someone on here, Helene. How are you doing, Helene? Helene is a good friend. I met her and her husband, Jim, at Photoshop World. They worked with them many years and became great friends. And part of the reason I'm here with my fellowship today is because of Jim. Jim kept pushing me. He said I should, start speaking at PPA. So I did. I hadn't even joined it. And then once I got my master's, oh wait, wasn't my master? One of my craftsmen. The first dinner I went to ASP with, Jim and Helene were there, and Jim looked at me and goes, "Okay, now you got to start working on your fellowship." So Jim was a big reason why I'm here, and
he loved you.
Oh, thanks. I love that man too. He was great, everything. So anyway, that's one of the reasons I'm here, and I'm so happy to see Helene here too. So I better share the screen here. I'm just going to get into this. All righty. My paper was titled "My Personal Odyssey: Discovering a Passion for Architectural Photography." I thought growing up, I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be an architect until my brother picked up my grandfather's old Argus and we started photographing together. We built a darkroom together and basically worked together at different times. And then I moved away for 30 years and I've just moved back to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so now him and I have opportunities. He's a commercial photographer that's just phenomenal. And we get occasions to work together. So that's been great. But so what I've done with my fellowship is merge two things together: my love for travel and architecture. And you can see this is some of my commercial work here. This is just things that I photograph for builders, for architects, for interior designers. Most of this gets used for either publication or for in-house and also marketing for them. So this is one of my, I love doing this. It's something that I look forward to every day, and it's a great job, and every image to me is challenging to do. No one thing is exactly the same. I also love architecture. I mean, besides architecture, landscape, and that's what really started me. I mean, I'm an old Ansel Adams guy. I got his big old book, that Eloquent Light and all this stuff. And so I went ahead and, started photographing landscapes, and loved it so much that two of my buddies, Rob Sylvan and Jeff Leinbach, started our own workshops to do out west. And we did this for about, I don't know, 5-6 years together. And, we go through and we'd have 20 students and photograph in some of these great locations, and, just loved it. So part of this was my fellowship was combining kind of this travel with not necessarily the landscape, but the travel aspect of it. Just to let you know, John Hartman talked about light painting, last week. Well, I do some light painting too, but mine tend to be a little bit bigger than a car. You can see this is El Capitan in Yosemite, and that's light painting it. So I like light painting too, just different things. And of course, buildings. That's what really started me light painting. And then really big buildings. This is the largest silo this side of the Mississippi. So, and that's about probably 14 different shots blended together to light paint the whole thing. I'm a big believer in self projects, and I wanted to get my master artist. So I decided I was going to get good at compositing. So I started doing all these different kind of surreal images and competing in it. And what I found out is the things I learned doing this helped me in my architectural photography and my post-processing. So it was one of those projects that really helped me out professionally. And before I get into all the images, one of the things that I've become, fascinated with, especially with my traveling, is staircases. And so now whenever I go someplace, I try to research to see if there's a spiral staircase or something like that around that I can photograph or have the chance to photograph. So that's just been something I've been enjoying lately. Hope to do some more. Let's see, that's probably the last one more or two more. All right. And I even consider escalators. They're kind of fun too. So these are all the images that I submitted for my fellowship, and this is how they are arranged. For people that don't know the process, you have to submit a paper plus your 25 images. You tell them how you want them to lay it all out. They're going to go ahead and judge the group of images as a group and individually, along with the paper and how the images relate to your paper. So this is kind of what you send out to do that with. This is how they were laid out. They weren't laid out this way in imaging because I think we ran out of room. And guys, please ask questions about anything here, or else it's going to be either very short or very long. So, so anyway, the first one was titled Saint Chapelle Wall of Glass. And this image is in France. It's about a block and a half away from Notre Dame. And it's just an incredible piece of architecture when you go in there. It is like this roof is being held up by glass, by stained glass. And it's just full of people. You'll find out me talking about people and some of the things I have to do about them. Like with this shot right here, if I tilted the camera down a quarter of an inch, you'd probably see a whole bunch of back of people's heads. So, I point things up a lot when I have to. Another thing is I get asked, are these all, am I using a tripod on all these? And most of the time, no. When you go to Europe, you go to these places, you can't use tripods. Matter of fact, they have the tripod police and they'll tackle you and all this other good stuff. So, you're not allowed to. So most of these, not most of them, probably about half are handheld. And the other thing I get asked, because I do a lot of HDR, are these all HDR images? And no, only ones that need to be. The cameras have gotten better over the past few years from when I started to now. So a lot of these are single capture. The dynamic range is just so much better with some of the cameras. This next one is in Venice. It's the Bridge of Sighs. And I think one of the reasons I chose this image was you're able, I love the different layers in it and how it kind of keeps bringing you back, bringing you back. You're kind of looking for all that. And then you come back up front and do the whole thing over again. I'm trying to work with different layers and, of the image and thirds. And I thought this one worked out really well. If you didn't know, then the reason it has the name, the Bridge of Sighs, is that is between the Doma and where the jail would be. And after someone was convicted, they'd walk them across this bridge and they'd be able to look out those windows and see the last bit of the beautiful city of Venice and then sigh. So they call the Bridge of Sighs. Vatican amazement. This is, as you can guess, in the Vatican. Again, this is handheld just because you can't use a tripod in the Vatican. And they're extremely strict about that. You can't even bring in too big of a bag. But going there is just one of the most incredible places I've seen inside. It's just the size of it, the beauty of it, all the little different bits and pieces of it. There's still side altars and chapels, basically. This is not the main cupola or dome. The main one you can actually go up to. And if you're there, definitely do that, because going up in that, you will be able, it's unbelievable to be up there, look in the dome, look down, and from the bottom, looking up all the paintings and all the portraits there, which are made out of tile, look, fairly small, but you get up there and they're just huge, but they're so far away from below. It's gorgeous, but you can go up there and you can actually walk to the top of it through a double dome. So it's interesting. Milan's Golden Gallery. Another thing I get asked about is about people and how do I keep people out of it and everything else. Number one is, and my biggest tip to people is, get up early. When all the other tourists are either in their beds or getting up, having their first cup of coffee, getting up early, you can get out and get shots without anyone in them. And some of these, my wife is with me and she's one of the most patient people around. But we have an agreement. I get up very early in the morning and go out and shoot. She stays in bed, has her coffee, and then we meet for breakfast. And then usually at night, I'm going to photograph something that's incredible. And so she wants to be there for it. But that works out really well. And some of these trips are trips that I take by myself. No students, no wife, just me, just out there shooting for 7 days. And this was on one of those trips. I ended up doing Milan, Venice, and Lake Como, and just shot. And this was right after COVID, which we said the plane I went on, you had to wear a mask on the plane. You know what it's like trying to sleep with a mask on, and I pull it down a little bit so I get some air through my nose, and the stewardess wake me up, go, "Sir, you have to put it over your nose." So it was a long flight, to say the least. Paris Opera House. One of the things I do take with me in my bag is a fisheye lens. I don't use it all the time. It's not that big, but when you have an image that you can use it, I pull it out and it can be just cool. And this is one of those with that fisheye lens. Again, there are a ton of people in these shots. And so I'm doing 10 shots. And the way I did this is I do carry around a platypod. I think probably most people know what it is. It's a little plate thing that, is a ball head and you put your camera on it. Well, it confuses the guards. They don't know. They look at it and go, well, it's not a tripod. And so they most of the time will let it go. So I'm able to set this on the railing right there, just kind of hold it down and take different shots so that, every 10, 15 seconds, take a shot so that people are moving. And so that when I go ahead in post-production, I can take that and take them out. So. Tranquil Canal, again in Venice, and This is a long exposure. This is probably 2 or 3 minute exposure. I'm trying to make the water as smooth as possible. Also, it allowed me with that long of exposure to have people that were walking across kind of just fade out because they kept moving. And when I was there, I was doing a whole series on these bridges. I probably photographed about 15 different bridges or more, and just kind of fell in love with them in these little places at night and everything else. So one of the things I do, I guess I should say, before I go into this, I plan out my shots. I don't go to any of these things, even if it's on vacation with my wife or on my own. I'm taking the time to do the research, figure out what I want to shoot. I kind of have a list and then a plan B in case something hasn't happened. Because you go to Europe and something you're expecting to shoot is all of a sudden have scaffolding all over it, or you can't get to it for some reason or whatever, or they put things. So I always have plan Bs in case, something's not right. And that's how come I can get some of these shots. I do plan them out. I do make, arrangements if I have to. I'll show a couple in here that, or at least one where I had to get permission, but I will plan ahead to make sure I can get the shots that I want. If you don't do that, you just, you'll get shots, but you won't come away with the ones that you really want and that you can take your time with, because you're just like, oh, it's here, or I'm going to go here. If you know when to do it, where it's at, and have a list. I make a list in Google on maps, so I have a list of what I want to shoot, and they're on the map, so I can just touch and get to there very easily. Another thing I work with to find some of these places is, number one, Google Images. You can just type something you can see, but also 500px if you want to see great photography. And sometimes they tell you, sometimes they don't. And then there's another service called Location Scout. You can use the free part of it. That's all I do. You can pay if you want more, but it's a great resource for looking at someplace before you go to see what's there. And with Location Scout, they'll even give you the GPS coordinates. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this last one, the Dora Pomo, whatever, Palace. It's in Rome, just a few blocks away from the Colosseum, and it's actually a private. It's not really owned by the government or the public or anything. It's actually a private palazzo, which they allow people in to view their art and everything else. Again, no tripod, so this is all handheld. But and this was just waiting until no one was in the room, and I find that I need to wait quite a bit, to get some of these shots. The Louvre. The Louvre is a great place to shoot, but it's also one of the hardest. You have people around, but even worse than people are all the wedding photographers that are there. And this is happening all over Europe. There's a lot of, I guess it's become a thing, a lot of Asian couples come over here with their wedding dresses and suits and hire photographers in these different places to take pictures of them. And I can't tell you how many times I'm basically having to wait, or, I'm going to have to retouch people out. I mean, the Louvre was especially hard. Prague, oh my gosh, Prague was hard. There's so many people there. So I've never seen it before. I've just seen it in the past 5 or 6 years. And it's just unbelievable how many there is out there. Shooting at the Louvre is great. Twilight, I was able to pull off 3 images at twilight quickly, which, for me, that's, quite a bit to get one, to get one and then be able to get a couple extra ones is great. And this was like an early twilight, and then I had 2 later ones. So it's architecturally, it's just fantastic. And the contrast between the pyramid, which you're going to see here, the pyramid, and the Louvre is just great. someone asked me the other day when this was at imaging, why I cut out the bottom, why I left the bottom out of this image. And to me, it wasn't going to add anything. But second of all, I would have split the image almost in half. I didn't want that. And it would have put another triangle and another point of interest in it. And I really wanted the pyramid to be the main focus. So by cutting off that bottom, I made you look more at the pyramid than at another point that's pointing right, lines pointing right towards you. And so that's kind of the reason I did that in this. Also, as an architectural photographer, I normally make all my lines perpendicular. I want them straight. I do travel with a tilt shift lens. But if I'm doing this kind of as travel and not as architecture, I don't mind in certain cases having, it look, the line's not parallel and it look like it's falling back. To me, it kind of works a little bit better here with this pyramid. So, but I do try as an architectural photographer to do it, but as a travel, it's not necessarily necessary. The Trevi Fountain. This is an incredible thing to see. It's a horrible thing to try to photograph. It is unbelievably it's unbelievable how many people are there. And I heard, I'm not sure that they're not even allowing you to bring tripods in there when there's a lot of people. I was there with hundreds of people all around me, and literally, thank goodness I'm a tall guy. I was able to get on a tripod above it, most of the people, and shoot it. I still had to retouch a few bags of people's heads out. But, trying to get this shot, is phenomenal, but it is tough with the amount of people there. Any questions, guys? I mean, feel like I'm just gabbing away.
Dennis had a couple of questions in the chat. Dennis, did you want to ask?
Yeah, I know I've been there before and things, and they've asked for permits, and then some of them want paid. How do you handle that?
They want permits?
Yeah, I've been places and they said you had to have a permit to shoot.
This is out in the public. I really haven't had any trouble with that. I mean, inside places, that's a whole different.
Yeah, I was inside some other places and kind of restricted, if you didn't have the permits and the camera police chase you out.
Yeah, inside places, that's a whole different story. I mean, unless it's, what I also do when I'm inside something, like the Vatican or something like this, I'm carrying about the minimum about as I can. I have my camera. I have a little tiny sling bag that has another lens or two in it. So I try not to look like I'm a photographer, and I think that helps. But I really haven't been chased out of things. I mean, I know people are going to photograph in a lot of these. There's times that I do write and ask for, if I can get in there. A shot that just went into IPC and got into the top 16. It's of the Lisbon City Hall. They don't allow tourists in Lisbon City Hall. So I wrote to the mayor. I said, I'd like to photograph your place. I'm, an architectural, blah, 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 blah. And I wrote to him, and he handed it off to one of his people. And my wife and I were able to get in there for an hour, photograph it with no one around. And the image I got from it, I love. It's one of my favorite images now. But, so I write to places. The library in Prague, again, all you can do normally when you're there is they have two doors. You just stand there, take a picture from the doorway, and that's it. I wrote to them, and I had to write many times. It was probably about a month long of writing back and forth before I got permission to come in. They said, you can come in on Sunday for 1 hour, 1 hour only, and photograph. And so I was able to go inside the library and photograph where most people don't get a chance to.
When you say write, are you saying you writing real paper letters, or are you writing emails?
No, emails, not real letters, emails. I'm emailing back and forth. I'm usually going to the website and seeing if there's a communications director or something like this. And I start there, and then if I don't hear from them in a week, I look on the website, find somebody else and send it to both of them. And I do it both in English and, either Portuguese, Italian, whatever. And then if I still don't get it, I look for a third one and, try to get the highest up person at that point and send it and see if I get anywhere. And I've been, pretty lucky with being able to get some of the access to places you normally don't. I do get turned down. They say no. I think they think more so because I'm going to use it commercially, and I'm saying no, it's more editorial and art. But it's all they can do is say no.
Well, thank you, Randy.
Yes. Was there another one? They said you had two, Dennis?
Well, I did. I combined the two about paying off, or have to pay money to guards or anything. And
No, I haven't had to do that. It's been, I don't know if I'm just feeling lucky or they like me. I got a likable face.
I have a
Prague
question.
Grand Convergence. This right here, this was kind of a happy find. It wasn't one that I was planning on doing, but the National Museum right in Prague was about literally across the street from where I was staying. And I had some extra time, so I said, "Oh, I'm going to go inside and just take a look." So went inside, and actually two of the images in my fellowship are from there. This is one of them. Again, I'm using a platypod sitting on the edge and having to take multiple exposures because they got two guards that are sitting right in the center, just walking back and forth all the time, and people all around. But I love the lines of this. From all the lines converging and all the the contrast from above. I've absolutely loved this image, and it's one of the ones I get asked a lot about, and so it's been one of my favorites. Architectural wonder. Now I say that about the other one, but this one right here probably is my favorite. I had it blown up really, really big in my house. I can't even think of the name of the church that it's at. It's in Rome. It's a little tiny church. They're only open till from 7 till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they close down. And and actually they were tripod friendly. I was able to get a tripod in there so I could really set this up to get a shot that was symmetrical. And I absolutely love this one. It's done well for me in competitions. And I don't know what to say. I just love it. Opera Elegance. So this is one again where I don't know if this is in the Paris Opera House, and it's just busy. It's unbelievably busy. So this is one where, again, I'm using a platypod, finding a place to be where I can shoot it. And it just, sometimes you just have to take the time to do a shot. And I think I pissed off a couple people behind me because I wasn't moving quickly and just standing there shooting, but taking the time for it. And this one, because of where I could not use the tilt shift, so I'm having to use I'm probably a 16 to 35 millimeter lens. And of course I got some the walls wasn't parallel, so I'm fixing that in Photoshop, and also making sure I gave myself enough room because I knew I was going to have to do that. But it's one of those things. It's one of those shots that I think are very cool. But again, getting some of these places is just tough with all the people. The Admiral Arch. This is one where I get to stand in the middle of the road with a tripod and shoot. But it is, it's in London. It's not far from Buckingham Palace. I saw an image of it one time, and I'm like, oh, this is very cool. So I had to go there and shoot it. And this is probably using like a 17 millimeter tilt shift lens. And I love just the design of the building, but I love how it looks in this photograph. I love the curves to it. I love how everything is, you got a center point, the curves are heading there, the street's heading there. I really like just how this one ended up being designed and everything else. So you see the flag moving up on top? I was at a judging one time where a judge said, "Hey, that flag's moving," and they wanted to score it down for that. And he goes, "Yeah, if they used a tripod, that would have been better." I had an assistant right next to me, and the assistant goes, "Hey, I carried that tripod. I know you used one," because it was a big 40-pound tripod. Venice Serenity. Again, this is just off of St. Mark's Square. It is one of the busiest places in Venice, and getting up early is one of the best travel tips I can give you for travel photography. Get up before the people get up, and you're going to get a lot more shots, and you're going to enjoy them. One of the things I get occasionally when people look at some of my images or when they're judged is they go, "Well, the lights they use, like there's too much of a star filter or something, and I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, realistically, we're shooting architecture, so we're going down with f14, f16, and when you start doing that, you're going to get that star effect just naturally from the aperture. And so I sometimes wish people looked at that a little bit differently, instead of thinking you did that with a filter or something, that this is the restraints of photography. And there's not a whole lot opening up, you lose all the detail going in the back. So I try, a lot of my shots on the outside are high, they're f14, right around there. Interior ones though, and most of them, because I'm having to hand hold them, are 2.8 or 5, and the lens wide open, the ISO 1600, 3200, because I'm having to hand hold them. Quiet at the Coliseum, and there really wasn't anyone around. And I love the shot. I did another one with it where the sun actually peeked through the opening in the center, and I didn't like it as much, so I decided to go with one where it didn't. I was just shocked that I was able to find one with it going right through the center. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on here, even at early in the morning. It's a busy place, and what's killed me is I've been to Rome twice now, and the first time I went, they had scaffolding over the whole left side of the building. They were working on it. And so I couldn't shoot the shot that I wanted, because there's a shot I would have loved to have taken from over on the left side. And this time I come, and they are doing a project of putting a new metro station in there, and they have the whole road and everything tore up there. So again, I could not get the shot that I wanted. I was able to get this one instead, but that's one of the problems, or one of the challenges of doing this sort of photography, is that these are old buildings, they're under repair a lot, and that's how come having a plan B is a great idea, knowing that, okay, if this is not going to work out, you have someplace else or some other way of shooting something. The Tower Bridge. It's an iconic photograph, I know, and I just wanted to capture this one. And I do a bunch, when I see water, I will do a bunch of long exposures to make the water look all silky and everything here. But when I went to take the shot of this one, I decided that, having this water rough kind of complemented the image, where I think you have so much going on up here, and then if I would have just had that soft, it wouldn't have looked correct. So I made the conscious decision of not doing a long exposure. And just to let you know, this, out of Joe's, John's, and mine, there's only 2 images with people in them, and this is one that has people in it. So I don't know if that's ever happened at an ASPM fellowship before, that all the makers really didn't have people in them. Venezia Glow. This is in the Cinque Terre area of Italy. It's, way up. And I was going to go do a workshop with Gary Hughes down in Tuscany, and I went in a couple days earlier because I wanted to shoot this area. And this is a gorgeous area. I mean, it's right on these cliffs, these colored buildings. They can't even paint the building without getting permission from the city. They can't change a color. And you can hike. There's 5 cities, and you can hike to each one if you want, or like me and not want, you can take the train to each one. But they are all up in these hills, and they're gorgeous. I mean, literally gorgeous. And this shot here, I walked earlier in the day up the other side to see if I wanted to shoot it from there. And then I came over here and walked up here in the middle of the day to see how it looked and what, if I did want to shoot it, where it was at. So I was doing some planning on this one. And so I came up in the afternoon, looked at it, said, this is where I want to be. So I came back up for twilight to shoot this shot. So trying to do a little scouting when you can, and when you have really bad light to photograph it with is, one of the things I try to use to make my time, usable. The Basilica of Saint Mary Major. This is again where having plan B really helped. It was raining pretty hard, and I, in Rome, and I wanted to get a twilight shot, but it was raining too hard to be able to do it. So I went inside and into this basilica, and there's 4 major basilicas in Rome, and this is one of them. And I saw this and I wanted to really shoot it, but I couldn't. They had, a gate up in front of it, not letting you into the side chapel. So I went around, did some other photography, and came back and was looking at it. All of a sudden, the priest went ahead and unlocked the gates and opened it up. I guess they were going to be doing something. So I was able to get in and photograph inside this basilica. And I love the contrast between the blue from the twilight outside and the warmth from inside on the basilica itself. Heavenly Stairway. This again is one of the ones I love. And it went into 2 competitions and didn't even merit. It went into IPC, and then I also had entered it into the Florida Professional Photographer Convention's image competition, and it didn't merit. And I'm like, I believe in this image. I know this image is good. So I took it and started from zero. And one of the things I found out is it was a lot browner, the image that I submitted. So I went back and really brought in the color that was there and to what I remember seeing, and really worked it over. And then I left the bottom, which you see is very blue. That's from light contamination from up above. And I left that blue to help draw your eye down into it. I mean, you have the spirals bringing you down there, but then you also have this burst of blue color down there, contrasting yellow. So to me, this image just worked out really, really well. But it took, like I said, I entered into, didn't get anywhere, and decided to enter into a third, redo it and enter a third, and it went long. The Jolene Library, or Jolena, they pronounce it either way, in Queanbeyan. This is one of those places where I had to get permission to get in. They do not allow even iPhones in there to photograph. So I knew I really wanted to photograph this. And so I wrote back and forth, and it took some convincing. Basically, any images that I'm going to use, I need to send to them. I could not use a tripod. And also, the way the library works here is they have a group of tourists come in for 10 minutes. They get to look around, and then they leave, and they for another 10 minutes, no one's in there to let the humidity come out of the library. then another group comes in. Well, I was only allowed to photograph in between the tours when people weren't there, so they didn't think they could take pictures. The other interesting fact about this library, and another one there, is that they let bats fly around freely. They come in at, they cover the tables with cloth at night and everything else, and bats fly around at night and eat the bugs. They can come in and out, eat the bugs, and keep the books safe. So, Natural History Museum. The only reason I have this shot is because I made somebody laugh. And I have a very patient wife. We came here, this is in London. I came there in the morning, thought if I got in there right away, I'd be able to get it, but no, it's just crazy, crazy packed with people. It's nuts. And so we stood there for over an hour, and I'm trying to get the shot, not going to happen. So we went out, went to lunch, did a few other things, and we're walking by, and I said, hey, it's getting close to closing. Let's give it another try. I go in there, and I'm waiting probably 30 or 40 minutes. All of a sudden they say, hey, the announcement, the museum's going to close in 5 minutes. And all of a sudden these two guards kind of walk up either side. And the one guard looks at me and goes, you're trying to get a photograph without anybody in it. I go, yeah. And so I started talking to him. I started making him laugh and joking around with them. And then they made the announcement, hey, please head to the doors. The library closes, the museum closes in 5 minutes. And the guards say, okay, everyone, please start heading down. And the guard looks at me and goes, you have 6 minutes. And so I was able to photograph this and 2 other shots on the way out with people not in it. So being nice, being friendly, making someone laugh and joking around can help a lot. Opulent golden arches. This is another one from the Prague National Museum. And I don't know, I'm just fascinated with all the curves in this image, and I should say something else too before we go on. There's a bunch of people that helped me out on this, but Greg Daniels, when I told him I wanted to go to my fellowship, he said, and I asked him for his help, he says, great, send me your 50 best images. And so I already had 173, so I had to pare it down to 50, and I sent them to Greg. And Greg, kind of laid them out, sent back what he thought I should be. I made a couple of adjustments. He goes, great. And then the other people that helped me were Cindy and Ralph Romagera. And they looked at it, and Ralph said, hey, when I'd changed this one thing about the placement of the images, which I did, and I think was a good suggestion. But what Ralph told me at this time, and this is a week before the paper is due, he goes, way the paper is written right now, you will not make it. And this is 1 week before it is due. So with the help of my brother, and more so his wife, Michelle, who is a producer for Discovery Channel, we basically in a week rewrote it and submitted it. So, when you go to do your fellowship, ask people. People are happy to help you out. They want to help you out. So ask them and get their opinion, listen to it. I would not have gotten it without the help of these people. There's no way in the world. And from my wife and my other brother, who's a photographer, having them look at this, I asked a lot of people to go through this, to read it, to look through the images and stuff like this. And if you're going or looking to do your fellowship, that's one of the things you have to do. Again, this was a happy mistake because I wasn't even planning the photograph in this place, and 2 of the images ended up in my fellowship. Porto Bridge of Light. This right here is in the city of Porto in Portugal. And I fell in love with the city, guys. If you are going to go to Portugal, make sure you plan to spend at least 3 days here. It is just wonderful. It's hilly. It's just a phenomenal place. We just went there in May, and it's where the port wine is made, and up the Douro Valley and all this other stuff. It's a gorgeous area, but the city itself is just incredible. And so we were photographing there, and if you're photographing Porto, this bridge is the center of it all. I mean, you can't, it's in a lot of photographs. Matter of fact, I ended up, when I was photographing in the morning, we had fog. So it was really kind of really nasty skies. It wasn't great. And so I've now got a whole series of black and whites that I did of the bridge, details and everything else. So I'm hoping to do something with that soon. But, looking at this, it's a gorgeous place. And the bridge is just fantastic to photograph, the architecture. There's a bit of manipulation in this one. I will do a bracketed exposure. And so I may take darker or lighter areas from different exposures and paint them in with a brush and layer them in to bring out highlights in area or take them different places down. Colors of Manarola. This is again in Cinque Terre. Matter of fact, if you look onto the left, the stairs kind of going up there, I found an Airbnb there for $100 a night, and I was there for 2 nights. It wasn't anything great. It was a bedroom and a bathroom, and that's all I needed, because I'm in Italy. I'm not cooking in Italy. I'm going out to eat in Italy. Anyway, this was just a magical place to photograph. I photographed it some different ways, and I still love all the images from it. It's been, I can't say enough about this area. I only made it to 2 of the 5 cities. I can't wait to go back for the other 3 and photograph. It's just magical. And let's put it this way, back when I took these, I was a bit larger mammal than I am now. And walking up those hills was tough, but I'd probably do it now. And that's the end. Here's my websites if you want any more information. RainyVanDynen.com, that's where my workshop and training videos are. RVD photography, that's my architectural photography. My portfolios and on everything else there. Instagram, I post almost every day, and it's just Rainy Van Dynen. And YouTube is YouTube Rainy Van Dynen, and I'm trying to put up more and more content there. There's one of the ones that have been popular is how to get the Photoshop color swatches back like they used to be instead of the way they have them arranged now. There's a video on how to do that. And if you want to email me, talk to me about something else, there's my email address. And that's it.
So we'll all be sure to go subscribe to your YouTube channel for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your paper?
The paper itself is really people that influence me, kind of my, how I combine travel and architecture. It's talking, really the people that influence me, my brother being one, Jim being another. There's a photographer named David Plowden. David is, he's photographed for the Gluckenheim and all this stuff. He's done some great art books, coffee table books. And he came to the university I was going to, Grand Valley State University, for 1 semester to do a project, a special project. Only about 15 students were allowed in. He came in 3 different times, and talked about it and how he went about it, and then reviewed photographs. So he was a big influence. I mean, I grew up in, and I say this, in an area called Heritage Hill. So that is, has 100-year houses, and I'm very into the historic part of it. So, when I went to Italy or, in Europe, I just started going crazy with all the history and all the architecture there. So that's kind of how I do that. And it talks about some of the people, how I got more into architecture, and then how I started combining that with travel. How it was just, it was natural for me. I mean, I started young, and, it's been great. And just some of the ways I've been able to do it, going from even travel for landscape now to trying to do workshops and doing my European shots.
So like you said, it was sort of an organic progression.
Yeah, it wasn't planned. It just, you know, I combined my two loves. I mean, I love photographing architecture. I really do. I mean, I had my brother ask me about 10 years ago, knowing now what you know, what would you be doing? And I thought about it and I go, exactly what I'm doing. I love doing what I do. But I love travel too now. I mean, and I love traveling to Europe. So I've just been able to put those two together and make a body of work that I think work. I mean, I thought about doing my fellowship just on my architecture work, which, you know, could have worked too. But this has been what I've been into. And I think my fellowship is more of a journey, hence the name. And this is where the journey has ended at this point in time in my life. So, you know, that's what I wanted to do, the images. And that's kind of what I hate using this word because everyone uses it. So that's what I'm passionate about right now. But, you know, that's where it is. And I enjoy it. I'm now trying to, like I say, get workshops to go over there, work with other people, very small, 7 people, and do works over there so they can kind of photograph some of these places and, you know, take in the culture and all that. Because it's not just photography when you're going over there. It's the culture, it's the people, it's the food and the wine. I'm a bit of a wino when I go over there. I love it, and they have great wine, and that's what I, you know, enjoy doing now.
Neat. Does anyone have any other questions?
Randy, are you going to do a workshop in Porto or in Portugal?
Probably, I'm looking at probably doing that next year. I'm one of the reasons I go to some of these places is to do a workshop, and so Portugal was one of them that I'm thinking about trying to put on 2025 calendar. And I'll be honest, Portugal, it's just being discovered now, and it's really being discovered. So the sooner you go, the better. But the people were wonderful. The food was great. Photographically, it was incredible. You know, but it's just getting discovered now. And there's some phenomenal places to photograph there. I went into this one place, this one palace in Sintra, and it's like a Moroccan, you know, house. And you go in there and photographically it just went nuts because it was just so beautiful. I mean, everyone tries to get up to the Penta Palace and photograph up there, which is, you know, if there you want to, but to me, some of the other places that are right in that area, because that's where all the royalty and all the rich people during, you know, the heat waves of summer would go, where it would be a little bit cooler. And they built palaces there that now are open to the public.
That sounds fabulous.
Anything else? I'd take anything. I mean, you know, if you're thinking about doing your fellowship, start working on it now. You know, it's something that it takes time. It was probably one of the hardest things I've done, doing my fellowship. It was worth every bit of it. I'm thrilled to death that I did it, that I got it. But it was hard. I mean, you know, the writing part and looking, you know, how do you write about it? It's not really your bio or anything. It's like that. I mean, it's the story of how you got into photography, or what your photography is, or where you're at now with photography. And if you read some of the past papers, you kind of see that and see what drives people to where they're at. And, you know, that means you have to look at yourself a little bit more and see what it all really means before you start writing, you know. And then image selection is one thing. I decided to do all mine, if you didn't see it, it was all printed on metal. I wanted something, I felt that metal gave it a little bit more pop. You know, you really see the detail in it. You know, and it really kind of pops off the, you know, off the metal when you see it. So it was a decision I made to do it with metal. I now have a case of prints right now that weighs, I don't know how many pounds. And I don't think Dennis Kraft liked that part of it, but luckily the case I gave him had wheels. So, but you know, I think that worked. I think John Hartman did his on metal too. And I think that went really, really well with his images. But other people, you know, most people probably use, are printed on paper, and Joe matted his. Other people haven't. So, you know, it's all, I think, depends on what your images are, what, you know, what, and how they're going to, again, work together as a group. I think that's one of the bigger parts.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, Dennis?
Had them, I totally agree. It's probably one of the, I agree with you, one of the biggest challenges, but one of the biggest rewards I think you can achieve doing this. So, but
Yeah,
the biggest thing is, you mentioned it several times, is get a mentor and have somebody help you with it.
definitely. And everyone I asked was more than willing to help out too. So, and I had people even volunteer without me asking. So that was nice. But give yourself plenty of time. You know, especially at the last minute, one print came back, you know, and it was fairly tight, and I had to have them reprinted, and, you know, on metal that takes a little bit of time. And so you want to make sure you have your time, and really look them over, you know. It's, you know, and I can't say how much they have to look good as a group, not just individually, but they have to work visually as a group together, and they have to relate to your paper.
Well, I can't wait to read your paper. I don't know if it's on the website yet. I'm going to check right after this. It will be soon if it isn't. And several of the past fellows' portfolios and their papers are also available to read on the website.
Yeah, and
It's
definitely read them.
fabulous.
If you're thinking about doing this, go back and read some of the past people's papers, look at their image, look at their image layouts. Really take, you know, that time to do that before you start, to give you an idea of where you want to go. My writing, Greg was going through it and Greg's like, I'm not a writer, but he gave me a couple ideas on how to do it, because I'm not a writer either. And so I started having to really work at it to make it all work together. And I edited it many times, and I had to edit a lot out of it. My wife, jokingly, we say I had to edit her out of it. I had a little part about her in it. And by the time it was done, she was out. And she wasn't unhappy about it, but just to let you know, I mean, they say over 2,000 words. 2,000 words when you're writing something like this is not much. And I think I kept mine down to about 3,000 words, which I don't think you want to be any bigger than that. I think that's probably, you know, again, Dennis, would you agree with that? Probably 3,000's probably, you don't want to be any more than that.
I totally agree. I mean, if it gets too long, the judges get bored. So you want them wanting more. You want them to know when, after they read it, I want to see those images, because you didn't tell them that the judges get the papers about a month before they go judge. And so they have that. And I know from before, you go, you read them, and then you look at them, and then you want to see the images. And that's the key, is you want to go and learn more about this person through their imagery.
Interesting. Well, you've gotten love in the chat box. I mean, the images are breathtaking. We already know that. And if you were lucky enough to see them in real life at Imaging USA, that was such a special treat.
Yeah.
If there aren't any more questions, I want to thank you again for sharing with us today.
Thank you all. Thanks for inviting me.
And I'm going to run through these announcements real quick. For those of you who joined us later, next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central, Jonathan Adams is going to share with us the details with his educational associate degree paper. And guys, those are an incredible accomplishment as well. They all include original research. and a lot of work that goes into them. And I'm looking forward to that. On the 29th, you're going to meet the board. So the incoming ASP board for 2024, 2025 will be here at 12 noon. And I hope you all come and hang out with us. March 7th, Joe Glida will share about his fellowship paper and his portfolio, and we'll get to see that. And it has, again, been a real treat to be able to see these portfolios and hear from the artists and learn more about their journeys for that fellowship. You asked for it. We're giving it to you. Alice Zimmett is our all-day workshop on March 13th on how to sell your fine art. Go ahead and sign up now. There is the first day program, and then there's a follow-up with only 6 spots left. It's limited to 12. Mel just told us that 9 are sold. Oh, 3 spots left. I'm sorry, I can't even do math. It's a 1 day, and it's the part 2 is all about examining your elevator speech, your branding, your website, making sure that you've done everything you need to do to appeal to prospective collectors and buyers. That's something that you have to do. As you all know with business, you have to do it quickly, and they have to generally like you and want to have something that you've created. So that's what this is all geared toward. I hope you take advantage of it. If we have a big enough waiting list, we'll try to do a second part 2, but don't count on it. Go ahead and log in today if you're interested in doing that. And of course, that's at asp.com. Images of Distinction is now open. It's new and improved. We have a part 1 and we have a part 2. Be sure you go and read all about it. The information is available on our website, as well as a link on printcompetition.com. And get your images in, because this is the place where you're going to get that in-depth review by a panel of approved jurors afterwards. And we all know how invaluable that is. Not only for learning about what we can do to improve our own images, but also if you watch everyone else's images come through, you learn so much. I don't care how many years you've done image competition, you will always learn more. It's great, and it's fun too. So that's what I have for today. Be sure to go to YouTube at Randy Van Duinen and subscribe to his page. He didn't ask me to do that, but I'm doing it anyway. And thank you all for joining us. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye, Helene.